Thank you very much. Yeah, when we came here, and Roy talked to us about speaking about lean startup, and it wasn't something that we were particularly familiar with.
Or experienced
in, but we have gone through it over the last 12 months in our sort of iteration of it. So really, we're just here to talk to you about our journey thus far, and what we've sort of taken out of it. We're going to start with a little video. A few of you may have already seen this if you've checked out our Indiegogo campaign, but for the people who haven't, if you happily let us eat into 3 minutes of our 60-minute presentation, which is critical.
Golf has always been my passion since childhood. We are all, for the most part, physically different, but we all share a common golfing problem: being able to consistently reproduce the exact same swing over and over again in all situations. Fundamental to this is for me to be able to establish and repeat my ideal posture position. This is knowing my spine angle, the club shaft angle, the relationship between the two, and the angle of rotation of the club face. All essential information. I believe Matt and Paul from Ogee Golf have developed a product, the Talon, which provides me with everything I need to do this.
I'm Matt. I've been a product designer for the best part of 10 years now, and as any product designer will tell you, we love having problems to solve.
I'm Matt's dad, Paul. I've played golf for almost 50 years now, and as most golfers would openly admit, I've got a problem to solve: consistency.
Over the last 12 months, we've been developing a revolutionary new training aid that gives you real-time visual feedback on your golf stance and angles of address. Talon removes the guesswork and gives you all the critical information you need to set up to the ball with the same posture every time, improving muscle memory, consistency, and optimum performance.
Digital display and back unit switch on with a single click and immediately start measuring and displaying your angles of address in real time. The Talon is ergonomically designed not to impede on any part of your body at any point in your swing. You can swing freely as if it wasn't even there.
For the first time in the history of the game, you can view your angles of address in real time, adjusting your optimal position, allowing you to hit the perfect shot again and again.
Every time I take my stance, I'm effectively guessing at my angles of address. Talon shows you in real time what you are doing whilst you're doing it, allowing you to make the necessary adjustments before you strike the ball. This removes all the guesswork. This real-time feedback is what I believe every golfer needs in order to improve their game. All aspects of a golf shot are a direct consequence of how you set up to the ball.
Technical hitch?
Good job.
Is it this is our plan. 60 minutes of rest.
All direct consequence of how you set up to the ball.
That's why I don't like computers.
We could have had a sale as well there. Do you think?
Now we find ourselves here.
Nope. We're there too quick.
Oh, that's connecting. Now we find ourselves here.
Has it stopped again?
Try one more
Yeah.
time. It looked like it was just buffering, I think. Now, did it?
It looks like it's
Asking for yours.
Oh.
I do have it on a pen.
Anyway, we found ourselves here. And that last, anybody seen that on Indiegogo? The last 10 seconds took us 2 hours of filming. It was just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. We scripted it, we sat down, we couldn't remember the lines, we had cue cards, and they said, you gotta look at the camera, stop looking at the cue cards, look at the camera, forget the lines. It just went on and on and on. It was horrendous.
And it was the high five that was particularly bad.
Yeah,
we,
but it was
just
good,
missed
yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And then because it was the only decent take, we had to keep it in.
You actually kept the missing high five in.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'd almost want to invest just based on that.
Yeah. But you haven't been able to see it. Oh, there we are, there, yeah.
That's a lovely finishing shot.
Ogee Golf.
It's a real shame.
That's a shame. Well, we'll try again in a bit.
Yeah, I'll leave it buffering and you can all get excited about seeing that high five. So we'll just get into the crux of the presentation then. So a little bit about our backgrounds. That's a prosthetic moustache on Dad by the way.
Yeah, I'm an architect by profession. I've been a businessman in various businesses for the last 20 years. Spent all my money putting Matthew through his design courses.
Paying him back.
along with the other children. But really, I've always lent towards design problems and problem solving. Primarily architecture. I lectured at university in interior design for 10 years. Which was fascinating, dealing with students and all their ideas. Absolutely wonderful environment to work in. Matthew actually went to the same university at Teesside to do a different course. I did interior design, Matthew did industrial design.
And I now lecture on the same course, funnily enough, with some of Dad's old colleagues. So I get to hear all the stories about when he used to go on his trips to Amsterdam and things. A few I wish I didn't know.
Trips abroad, yeah.
But
Educational visits.
I moved into product design and I quite quickly went from university into a company called E3 Design in Newcastle. And it was a hell of a learning curve, but we were doing mainly commercial design, a lot to do with plastics, and for big companies that were doing the sort of very popular laundry detergent bottles and deodorants, trying not to name any names, but the big ones. And the thing about that was you were sort of plugged into an area of design. We called ourselves design plumbers, basically, because a lot of the groundwork would have been done for us, because these big corporations spend 3-4 years developing any new range that's going to be coming out. They're always ahead of the game, but they've got time, they've got money, big budgets, and huge departments and resource. But every now and then we'd get a client come in that didn't have that. They were starting out. And those were the ones that really connected with me. I thought they were fantastic. And there was one chap in particular who had developed a smartwatch. Now, everyone knew that all these smartwatches were about to come to market. But he didn't care because his was different. It didn't utilise Bluetooth, it didn't need a phone to work with it. It was meant to revolutionise a mobile phone, a phone you wear on your wrist. And what he did to seek his funding was went to Crowdcube and successfully funded it to the tune of 80,000, which allowed him to then go forth and develop that product. I'm not sure where he is today, but it was amazing to be part of that journey. And that sort of spoke to us. Me and Dad got talking, and we thought, with the sort of design resource that we've got around us, why can't we take an idea, utilise crowdfunding, and then try to get out there relatively cheaply and ask a question. And that's when we developed our company. It just doesn't want us to.
Doesn't want to
wants
work.
us to fail, doesn't it?
Is it
The company Mustachio, yeah.
Bear with me. Mustachio. So
Matthew's name for it, yeah.
at the time,
I just went along with it. At the time, as you noticed before, he had the moustache and I had a chocolate one.
That's good. So the ethos behind Mustachio was to use limited resource and creative thought to take a product, put it in front of people and ask a question. And the beauty of crowdfunding, I don't know if many, I'm assuming you're all familiar with crowdfunding, some of the big three there. And one thing that was big at the time, and I don't know if people are aware of this one, but the coolest, it was a cool box. Someone had revolutionised the cool box. And at the time, he had raised $13.5 million US, and he was the highest grossing crowdfunding campaign in the world.
But it failed to start with.
Yeah, and that's what was fascinating, was that he'd run the same campaign 6 months previously, and he had achieved 109,000 of 125,000 goal, which means he didn't get the funding, which meant he went back to the drawing board. He made some tweaks, he refined the prototype, he tickled the video a little bit, and he he tried to ask for $25,000, a bit more realistic, giving himself a chance, and he hit $13.5 million.
It's just unreal. But he also launched it at a different time of the year.
Different time of the year, yeah.
Which resonated with people in terms of, oh yeah, I could do with a toolbox, rather than, no, I don't need a toolbox at the moment, so weren't interested. Interesting little bits of sort of feedback like that about products that go onto these crowdfunding platforms.
So at this point in time, we're just juggling the idea around what can we put out there, what can we get into crowdfunding that's going to make us £13.5 million.
Yeah, but we wanted to client, yeah. Because we generate £13.5 million.
Mustachio wanted to do this for other people, small startups who didn't have any prior knowledge of how to take a great idea to market. We could utilise our network that we already had through my previous employment, and with a bit of creative thinking, a bit of gusto, we could get their product into an environment where people can start answering some questions about it and hopefully validate the idea. And obviously with crowdfunding, you're going to fund it as well. So you're asking people, do you want to buy this? If they do, you've already got your startup costs. So for me, it was a good little business model that we had, but it wasn't tried and tested.
I found it intriguing that people would actually buy something 6 months or 9 months or 12 months before they're going to get it, not even knowing whether they're going to get it. And they'd still fork out a couple of $100 and just wait for it. I mean, Emma, one of our colleagues, she'd invested in some computer kit.
Part of a Raspberry Pi sort of offshoot.
Yeah, and she waited 9 months for it,
yeah,
didn't she?
It was delayed. And it
she
was
didn't bother in the slightest.
Yeah.
So it attracts a certain sort of person into the crowdfunding environment. So again, we didn't know what that was. We hadn't had that experience.
And then at this time, a colleague of mine at the university said that they was running this Digital City Fellowship through the university. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of it. It was at Teesside University, and it was a little 6-month incubator period for startup businesses. And because we were eligible for it because we both previously graduated through.
Well, you were eligible for it, yeah. I just tagged along.
Yeah, you tagged along. Try to get involved. And what we knew, what we had, when we started to look at what our strengths were, we had a good network. We had good people around us that knew a great deal of things in terms of design. So we had, manufacturers, we had prototype specialists, we had electrical engineers, we had CAD technicians, web designers, a good
all tried, tested, and trusted.
Good people that we knew. And we thought, what can the fellowship do for our network, what the Mustachio network, how can we plug into this fellowship? Because there's going to be fellows there's going to be like-minded creatives that are all early startups. That video actually was done by one of my fellows, Matt at Ithaca Films. I think he did a fantastic job with it. We were thrilled to bits.
You'd have enjoyed the end bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's knockout. Yeah.
Nice, isn't it? And this was really the first time that the lean startup principle was introduced to me, and we had a speaker there for the first week, and it was an intensive 1-week course on lean startup philosophy and principles. And what really panicked me was that this business model that me and Dad had set up, although it was quite loose, couldn't plug into any of the exercises that they were putting in front of us, because when they were asking, who's your end user? Well, I don't know, because I don't know who I'm going to be designing for. Am I thinking about the client's end user, or am I thinking about the client? How do you operate within this sort of system that was really geared up for digital startups, is what we found. And all this while, me and Dad are sort of trying to come up with a new product that we can launch on crowdfunding to sort of...
Only because we couldn't get a client.
Well, you need something to get a client, don't you?
Well, yeah. It's just a starting point. You can't sit in an office, which is why I asked Steve, how do you find your clients? It's like having the idea, but how do you actually market to find a client? I mean, we'd had nothing, no track record or anything at the time, so we decided to do our own product basically, and we've been fiddling about with bits and pieces.
Finger puppets was
a bit
of a law.
One. Yeah.
There's a great idea in there, trust me.
It'll work.
But I think at this point we got talking about things that we enjoy, and although I've dabbled in golf in the past, Dad is an avid golfer and has done for 50 years. And every week he's found the secret to golf. So I'm thinking, well, you know, I've got to market this, the secret to golf.
Any one of them.
All winners.
Yeah.
And it was when Dad was chatting about a present we'd got him when he went to the David Ledbetter Centre in, where was that?
Lacala.
Lacala.
Yeah. And they fitted me out with like a suit with sensors on it. I mean, I'd been playing dreadfully. I was just duck hooking everything all the way around the course. I mean, it was an absolute nightmare. So I was relieved to go and get this lesson. But at the end of the day, when they fitted this suit and they made me swing the club, the computer generated my physique and the swing. And the swing didn't look too bad, in all honesty, but the results were horrendous at the time. But they then sorted parts of my grip out and that sort of thing. But I was fascinated by the fact that they could replicate a little model of me, and they could rotate all the way around it, they could go over the top of it and look at all aspects of the swing. And it just became fascinating that they could do this. And I thought, well, everybody should want one of these. Every golfer, you know, must need one of these. So I said, Matthew, why don't we do this?
It's been done.
It's been done, he said. So I thought,
You're on one,
yeah.
Dad.
Yeah. So that was the difficulty. So something that hadn't been done. So in order to think about that, we
started to look at what was out there at the time. And one thing that it came quite quickly, because Dad's always looking for this secret, and he watches a hell of a lot of golf, and he goes on the internet and looks at all manner of how you should be setting up and things, and there's a lot of information out there around setup.
in particular posture.
Yeah, your posture, your spine angle, your club shaft angle, it always gets referenced to when you're watching golf on the telly. But you don't get any information other than, you know, look in the mirror, bend at the hip, stick your butt out and drop your knees, and I'm doing
That's
a
it,
golf
that's good posture. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the only information you get online about the golf posture.
I wish I hadn't looked at the camera before I did that.
So, you know, we felt there was a gap there that hadn't been filled, and we found quotes from.
This was. I always include this, and I include this in my lectures with the students, because students, whenever they do anything remotely artistic or to do with designing or creating, if they had a page that looked like that, I'd never get to see it when they submit the work. But these, to me, speak volumes, because there's just so much thought process going in there.
These are my thoughts.
Yeah, this was the first ever, the first tiny drop of what Ojee was going to become, and this, you know, this is Dad coming up to me.
Just
well,
thinking about the problem.
And we started talking about it and could see there was something there. There's nothing out there for posture and what are people doing at the moment. It was phenomenal. We thought we'd hit a bit of a golden nugget. There was something in it. So we incredibly quickly drew up some aims and objectives just to try and validate what we were thinking. So aims, we wanted to develop a product within the golfing sector. We looked at the UK and US markets because they're predominantly the biggest. They take up around about
40 million?
Yeah, 40 million of roughly about 60 million golfers worldwide. So we know it's a big market. Golfers are affluent people more often, you know, so they're willing to spend money on gadgets. We know that there are a lot of gadgets in the market at the moment. And also you look at things like Zep Sensor and Game Golf, and they've raised an awful lot of capital prior to going to launch. So people investing in the industry, it's growing, so we were happy with that. So our objective was to develop something that provided immediate information regarding your setup position. So looking at the spine angle and the shaft angle predominantly, that's all we had in our heads.
Yeah, it wasn't that you have a spine angle and you have a shaft angle, and if you look on the internet, a lot of the major golfers are analysed in terms of their angles, spine angle in relation to shaft angle and that sort of thing. But you can already get that again, you know, Matthew's thing, well, you can't do that because it's already there. You know, you stand there, you hit the shot, and you go and look at a computer screen to see what you've done. What we wanted for you to see what you were doing. So when you're there, you can actually see the angles that you've established. So it's while you're doing it, not after you've done it. That was our concern, that it was real-time information that you needed.
And sort of very quickly into that, because I had a vague idea of how I could get that to work, but I'm by no means an electronics expert, so I didn't have the skills to do it, but I knew somebody that did. This is going back to the Mustachio network that we had. So we commissioned a guy called Steve Fisher at SPF Design. He, within 2 weeks, and we spent a couple of grand, we had that kind of monstrosity. It's not the prettiest thing.
It was that.
It was that.
That's what he turned up with.
And yeah, we were a bit
And
like,
we
"Oh,
loved it."
Steve, 2 grand.
Yeah.
But we turned it on, lo and behold, we could see all these figures flashing. It was a bit difficult to read, but it was registering angles, and it was showing us our spine angle, and it was showing us the club shaft angle. And, which we hadn't expected, was it was showing the
Angle of rotation.
rotation of the club
face.
face, which
Big
is
bonus.
a huge bonus.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a huge bonus. Yeah, so at this point, going back to the fellowship, I could finally plug something into their system, their lean startup system. And we'd sort of practiced it ourselves in a way, the way that we would do it through product design. We spent a couple of weeks and a relatively low budget in the grand scheme of things to prove something. And we were happy with that. The fellowship got behind it quite quickly. This is when we got introduced to Emma Robinson, who's a shareholder today. She still works for us, with us. And she's been fantastic at unlocking a lot of doors and
Knowing where to go.
Yeah.
And who to talk to.
Yeah, because we're constantly just learning. We're learning on the fly at the moment. I mean, we were quite nervous of meeting her because we were told she had a golf background, and she wanted to meet at a golf club.
Very
nice
prestigious golf club.
Yeah, close house, and she wanted to see this thing in action. And we never.
Well, we didn't know that. We just
No,
wanted to
she
show the
blindsided
product.
us.
I mean, all we'd done is stuck it at the end of the club and looked at the
Done
figures
that.
and thought, "Oh, this is wonderful. I
We
really
never
like
swung
this." You know, but we never swung it. And she arrived and said, "Oh, let's get a bucket of balls." So we've got a bucket of balls.
Just crossing fingers.
Yeah, swung the club and the thing fell off. So we stood there with this thing on the floor, thinking,
Yeah, that wasn't very
God,
good."
that wasn't very good. Yeah,
Well, it's because it had a wire on it.
yeah.
We hadn't thought that through. But when we were sort of panicking and we were rambling around trying to find another little thing that we could stick to the end of it to try it over again, we were inadvertently talking to the golf pros there about the product, you know, while we were just planning to get it together. And Dad approached a gentleman who he thought worked there, and in fact he didn't. And he was a member of about 15 different prestigious golf clubs
Around the world.
Around the world, so an affluent chap. And we've shown him this in its broken form, big black box, and told him what it did. And he said, "I'd pay 400 quid for that." And we were like, "Oh, this one
Was that
exactly."
the business or was that?
But there was just suddenly a huge relief. You know, somebody has said, "If you get that to market, I would buy that, and I'd pay £400."
No, we hadn't thought about any price point at that stage.
No,
had we?
we were still just rolling with the punches. We just, you know.
Here it is, and look, it falls off when you swing it.
Yeah. But that was just a huge
Boost.
big boost for us then. We knew
Of
then
course,
that we had something. And, you know, that's when we developed Ogee Golf. So it was born June last year. And like I sort of touched on earlier, looking back, we'd realised that we'd inadvertently done this lean startup principle through knowing what we know, which is product and the use of product. We're not great digitally. We struggle in that area.
Me in particular.
Well, we did do a course together, which was hilarious.
A masterclass in social media.
He was the only
best
one.
I could do was text.
But the guy said that he'd never heard that before. When they were doing, so what's social media? And everyone's going, "Oh, Twitter, Facebook, then there's SMS."
Didn't
It
you
went
know it
up-
was SMS, I just said text.
Yeah, it went up on the board though. So our interpretation of lean startup was to find a problem, to set a goal, and to prove a principle for as cheaply as we can do it and as quickly as we can do it. And at this point forth, you know, we're now in a whole new ballpark because Mustachio's gone. Well, it's not gone. It's still there. It's still a parent company. But our focus had changed. We no longer needed a client. We were the client, effectively.
And that speeded things up, didn't it, because
Yeah.
of that?
Yeah. So quite quickly, we had our first conceptual drawing of it.
And this was Matthew now. This is where he takes over and I watch.
But I don't,
And
yeah,
he does the design of it, he does the graphic, he does the logo, he gets on his Wacom that cost me a fortune on day one. And I wish I'd had one when I was a student, because it's amazing what he can produce on that machine, just absolutely amazing.
I must say that any designer will tell you that you always hate your first drawing that you did. So this I just don't like looking
It's a
at.
starting
The
point.
quickest we can get off, the better. But what we had found is when we did research into things, especially things that clicked in the butt of the club, there was a lot of negative opinion about it. A lot of them were cheaply made. People said it looked like it came out of a cracker. They were constantly falling off. They were rotating. There was a lot of problem. And we wanted something from day one that was going to have quality of like a watch or something like that. Golfers, after they're going to pay some good money for this. We wanted something that was going to look precious and be precious and have a great build quality. And that's what we set out to do. So whilst this was all going on, I mean, we've got, like I said earlier, great CAD technicians. They're working on it. I'm working on it visually. Steve's doing electronics, and this is all happening at the same time, which from previous experience being at E3, you go back to when you had your marketeers, your engineers and your designers, and there was constant conflict there, because the marketeer wants something as big as possible to a big old label on it. An engineer wants to make it as simply as possible. The designer wants to do something that's really interesting and nice, that probably can't be tooled very well. And it's been a battle for a long time, but since started, to be successful in any one of those categories, you need to have a great understanding of the other one. So this was nice, the fact that this network that we had, we were using, and they were proving to do what we hoped they would do. We were all moving forward as one, and this sped up the process hugely. And very quickly, we had our sort of T1, T2.
Yeah.
Our first real look at what the prototype was going to look like. So the big significant change there is that one, when it was on a club, you couldn't see because it points up.
Come straight up there was difficult. Unless the club was down there, it was up there. So we needed something that was sloping more at 45 degrees to allow you to make visual contact with.
Which meant Steve had to write a new program because everything had shifted. So that had to work. We needed to look how the plastics were actually going to go together. And we also improved the logo, the branding, and this all just started to happen, which was great. And at that point,
I got a new jumper.
which he loves. I'm really upset because I buy him a jumper like for his birthday or Christmas every year, and they've just gone away. Yeah, so we were really excited because we ended up with this, and this was our first little prototype
That worked.
And what was exciting about it was going back to that early principle of how to get something relatively cheaply. We were doing soft tooling. So soft tooling has been around for a little while, but it's getting better and better. So all these prototypes that we have today have been firstly 3D printed. You'll probably see a lot of SLs, just they tend to finish at that. You can then cast that in a silicon mold, and you can inject PU resins, you can inject TPEs, and you can start to make something that's really like the end product. The end product. And what's good about that is that you can start to make informed decisions about how people are going to use it. You know, what are the buttons like to push? How do you plug the charger in? How does it actually go together? And these are great because we're answering the questions before we've gone to tooling. You know, we haven't paid money on expensive steel tools, only to find that the thing doesn't go together properly. So then we're going to have to spend a lot of money on re-engineering those tools.
So this was the first one that we're able to field test again that actually stayed on the club. I mean, the fascia came off occasionally, but that's, you know, you would expect those sorts of problems with something that is at that stage in its development. But the other thing we found is that we began to get some centrifugal rotation of it, simply because that went straight down the center of the club and it would slightly rotate. And one of the values within the club setup here was that angle of rotation of the face. So once you set it up, and if it rotated slightly independently, that was no longer in the same position. So there was a potential problem there for us.
But at this stage, we were quite happy. We'd been doing this because we had signed ourselves up to exhibit at the London Golf Show, which is UK's biggest golf show. And that was nerve-wracking in itself because all the big boys present there. And we were going in there dry. We've been working behind closed doors for 4 months because we were petrified of someone stealing our idea.
Although we had it patented, we did
no
get
steal
a
it.
patent.
And we were all set for the London Golf Show. We had our flyers and we had 5 units, and we had enough to make a little stand together to start canvassing people and seeing what people really thought of the product. And that was really quite a phenomenal experience.
Very exciting.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing we had to do was engage people quickly. And you can see the sort of flyer graphic there, which I'll just balloon out a bit more. The thing that we had to focus on was using visuals to get the idea of the product across quickly, because people don't hang around that much. You know, it's hard to draw someone into your little sort of 2B3 environment when there's sort of the trick shot boys and loads of exciting things going on over there, and no one's ever heard of Ogee Golf. In fact, there was a chap that came over and thought,
Yeah, he said, "Oh, I know Ojee." I said, no, you don't. "Oh, I know Ojee." "No, you don't. No, it's a new company." "Yes, I know Ojee. It's gangbang." No, Ojee.
it was particularly awkward, yeah. I wish I had fielded that question, but yeah, we sort of started to develop this visual language, which was going to be really important to us to get it across to people that we are showing you this, and it's nice and straightforward, because the product itself was straightforward. And at this show, one of the first people we got speaking to referred to it as a digital spirit level for the golf club. Never heard that. I thought, oh, brilliant. So I used it for the rest of the show, and I continue to do so today, because it's a really nice, quick, simple way of describing what it is. And that's what people like. You don't have people's attention for a great deal of time nowadays. And the other thing we focused on was pulling together a nice stand. So we had some visual impact there. There's, like I say, all the big boys are there, they've got bigger stands. We needed a brand that was going to stand out. Very few use black and green in golf. So we did stand out quite significantly when you came through the door. You could see black and green, Ogee Golf, what's that? And we took one of our display cases for our jewellery shop, which was
We did, yeah.
nice.
I think we're blessed, you say. Well, I'm blessed that Matthew did all that, because he has that capability. A lot of people may not be able to do that sort of thing in terms of promoting their product. But Matthew, in a very short time, has branded this product with quite a strong visual image, you know, which I think is really important, and I'm very lucky that you're able to do that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I didn't want us to get emotional.
If I didn't, but I would have told you if I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it was important. You again controlled everything. That's the thing about this control. It's gone reasonably quickly because we've been in control of it. We haven't been waiting for somebody else to do something.
I think
who's been waiting for somebody else to do something.
I think there's an important lesson somewhere in there in startup of you have to follow your gut a lot, and you have to make very quick decisions. And even if they're the wrong decisions, you can learn from that. And we've experienced that, and you know we will continue to do so. But we've got to where we are by following our gut, and sometimes by not listening to people who you would assume to be in the know because it's their industry. But we've felt that we have a very clear idea of where we want this product to go, and following that has got us to where we are now. And it's not, you know, we're in a decent position, so it's nice. So at the show, my moustache had evolved into a beard, which is, I miss it.
And
It's
I've lost my
glorious.
chocolate one. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, we had a great response. We probably had about 500 golfers through our stand. We got to demonstrate the units. The thing that came out more than anything as a negative response was, again, the engagement to the club. There was no confidence there in being able to line it up. And we were running a little competition while we were there to get email sign-ups to enter a competition where you could win one, just you know, so we could keep their details, so we could just inform them on where we are in our journey. So you know, when we come to be able to sell, we can say, hey, you know, you said you like this, well, come on, buy one. And we were on top of the world at this point.
We also tested the market in terms of the cost point.
Yeah.
People were saying, how much is it?
Which again, gut feeling on the drive down, how much are we going to sell this for, Dad?
Yeah,
Don't know.
But we seemed to hit it right on the nose, really. It worked well. It seemed to resonate with them, which was encouraging again.
Which was again just validation for our product. We were finally in front of a group of people that were our end consumer, and we're able to ask them the question of what our product is and what they're willing to part with and what value they would get from the product. And all that, just because it was such a good response, just gave us the confidence that, again, we're going the right direction. You always need to validate what you're doing. You always need to go back and reassess and think, am I doing the right thing? And you only get that by asking. And you're going to probably more than likely be asking your end consumer. Although saying that, we're on top of the world. We've gone to North Star.
Via Emma.
Inventors, via Emma. Thanks again, Emma. And we were looking to acquire a proof of concept fund, which is a Jeremy fund that was going to give us the capital to be able to build our first 500 units, as well as all the marketing and yada yada, to get it out. And everything was very swimmingly to begin with. They were really taken with the product. But because they had no experience in the golfing sector, they then put it out to some people that they knew within the golfing industry. And we had a sort of negative response, a very negative response. And the first response, I know it's difficult to read, but that was playing devil's advocate. It was asking questions of the product that we were prepared to answer, because it was, this was the first time that we're having somebody actually challenging what we're doing. And the first set of questions, yeah, that's fine. We sort of were ready to tackle them. The second response was a little bit harder. Where's this approval come from? Usually they should have somebody endorsing this product, and we're only 4 months old, so it was getting a bit more gripey. And the third response was just pretty mean, really. It gathered dust in a golf bag, and consistency of the swing's important, not the setup. And it spent 10 hours writing an email in response to this, and 2 bottles of wine, but it's fine. It was quite good, because as I got drunker, I was getting to the more angry guy. But it forced us to really look into the critique of the product, and it was so encouraging that our response, we actually did get the funding. We got it. And had we not answered those sort of criticisms, I fear that we would have not got the most out of our product. So it's, again, what you were saying earlier, that thing of you have a problem and you could just sort of go, oh, this guy doesn't like us and it's rubbish. But you think, no, actually, this is why it's great. This is why.
Yeah, you're wrong and we are right.
Wrong, yeah. But we value your opinion.
Yeah, you're still wrong.
And lo and behold, son of a gun. Hey, we got our investment. And it was a dreadful photo, but it was a great experience for us. And that gave us then the tools to go on and do what we were aiming to do, which was engage new companies that could help us promote the product. Because at this point we've gone to the Scottish Golf Show, we've gone to the Manchester Golf Show, we've implemented the changes that we'd learned from the London Golf Show, and all of a sudden we're not having those negative responses about the rotation of the club.
We changed that.
We've changed it, and it's working, and people are happy. And what we've done to try and engage more people into our competition is, instead of having a laptop on the table, which we'd had in the first one where we got 41 sign-ups, we had an iPad each, and we were just giving it to people, and they were just signing up. And we did 250. We saw the same amount of people. We had 250 sign-ups to our competition, and all
at
these
Glasgow
people,
and 180 at Manchester.
Yeah, and when you put an iPad in front of someone, they're quite happy to take it. And while they've got it in their hands, you can talk to them about the product. So it made that engagement easier. We also had Emma there, who was sort of running around trying to
Drag people
in, yeah. She's a bit more forceful than we are. But it was that started to build that confidence again, and we got our investment, and we were in a position to run with it. And this is when the scary thing happened, because everything was just about trying to get the product right and just trying to get the funding. And we hadn't thought about what was to come. So again, rolling with the punches, learning, yeah. So we took on a digital marketing agency to help grow our database, and that didn't go as we'd hoped, because although they were tried and tested and done some fantastic work for other clients, because we were golf specific, we believed that we knew our client more so than they had, because there's obviously a book learned way of doing digital marketing, and you can plug a company into that and it will do its due. But what we found is, talking to our client, I mean, the average age of a golfer who's affiliated with a golf club in the UK is 68. So they might, they will be on Facebook, no doubt, but they're a different type of audience, and we were recommended not to go down the print advertising route. Now, it just so happens that we should have gone down the print advertising route from day one, because where we are now is we're with a company called the Azalea Group, who just do golfing promotions, PR for golf. And thankfully, because we'd made a few inroads with these magazines, just without telling this other company, we were just doing it because it was our gut. We started to say, we know them already. And suddenly we're in this network now where we've got all our units out, and there's pros testing them, and they're doing video reviews, and now things are starting to click. But we did spend a lot of time, effort and money initially trying to raise the database.
Email database, yeah. I mean, we were told we needed a bigger database before we went to the crowdfunding. The database was the key, and the marketing people were trying to do it their way, their tick box way, and it just wasn't working. They weren't increasing at all. We went to people that we knew, and they did e-blasts, and all of a sudden, our database went up, and we were tracking it, and we were told that we needed something like 800 emails, because they would be your community. They're the people that have signed up to back you, to be with you, and you needed something like 800 for it to be a success. We had 4,000. We thought we can't fail. And
keep going, Dad.
which slide are we on? And so we were at this position where, when we went out and launched on Indiegogo, we had 4,000 people that we sent our email to and said, right, we're on, we're up and running, we're starting. And within the first 10 minutes, we had 2 sign-ups, two purchases. We were happy as Larry. And then it went less and less and less. Now, in the first period, we sold something like, we had to sell
part of the agreement,
30%.
Part of the reason and part of the agreement that we went with Indiegogo was that if we hit the 30% target
in 24
hours, that we would feature in a newsletter. And more often than not, when you feature in that newsletter, you have a successful campaign. So we were so excited when we hit our 30% in 24 hours that we just figured, we'll just sit back now, watch it roll in, happy days, ticking the box, we've done it, nailed it. And then you start going, a few less today, and then you realise that you're getting one person on your site and you're thinking, oh my God, what's happened? So then we looked to our sort of, the network we'd built with the various publishing companies that have golf publications, and they have databases of their own. So we sent out an e-blast, and that encouraged people to go onto the Indiegogo campaign, and we saw another spike. That was great. So we thought, right, we just need to do that again. But every time we were doing that, it was 1,300 quid. And that 1,300 quid wasn't equating to 1,300 pounds worth of sales. So was it cost effective, or do we just say, we're just going to sit? I mean, we opted to do the crowdfunding where you don't have to hit your target, because we were using it really as a pre-order channel. And what we've found since, we extended the campaign for 30 days knowing that we're going to get these video reviews and things are starting to build and PR's beginning to build around the company, that we may be able to have another spike. And lo and behold, we got into Indiegogo's newsletter and we had a real good spike then. And we're 70% funded, we have 23 days to go. And we know that we just need to try and find those next
Have another spike.
little spikes
That's what you want.
as we go. So that's where we
Well,
are
it is
right
fascinating to watch the Google Analytics in terms of what's going on your site. You can launch on your site and you can see who is on your site, where in the world, where in the country. You can. I mean, when we first launched, it was fascinating to see all these countries, people on the site, 30 at a time, you know, going through it all. They weren't all buying, because I mean, Indiegogo just goes out as a to the general public, and people just look at it because you'll be on the first page to start with. And you only stay on the first page if people maintain their interest in you. As soon as interest wanes, you've had it. You know, you just go down the pecking order, so nobody ever finds you.
that was our mistake, because what we hadn't read up on is the importance of a go-go factor. And you know, lo and behold, it was our biggest downfall. Because you're encouraged to be updating your page all the time, sharing your page, sharing your shortened URL through social media channels, and that influences your go-go rating and just how far you go at the page and how many views you get. And what we've learned, we've had 6,000 views and we've sold 80 products. So if we could, you know, get that in front of more people, we know people are buying it. And if we don't hit our target, it's still been a huge success, because we've sold to 17 different countries. People have bought into a product that they've never held in the hand. They've just seen a video of it.
Great video, but they saw the full thing as well.
And yeah, it's the high five. And they've bought into our concept. And that was enough for us to think, right, we need to get this. We need to get our units. We need to continue with what we're doing in terms of our PR, and we need to sell this product. And that's where, and it's been a little hell of a journey, because we've been in green rooms. That was an exciting day with Noel Emerson.
It was a great day. He's a great golfer. I mean, I bet you enjoyed his swing early on there.
We've only got one golfer in the room, or two golfers.
Yeah, well, but fabulous swing. Nice lad as well.
He's a lovely guy. Yeah. That was us filming
Wynyard, 5 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock in the morning, that's commitment. That's what we did. That's how we got that beautiful shot with the sun. It was, that was a fabulous day. And I guess this is a sound booth. You know, when I say that we're rolling with the punches, I mean that this is just the biggest learning curve that either of us ever done. Every day we're doing something completely alien to us, but it's fantastic. This is alien to us. You know, we've never done a father and son chat. We detest each other. But it's really, it's just a great journey, and we're enjoying it thoroughly.
Yeah, we haven't had any knockbacks, you see. You know, you're saying about if you, I mean, I've had knockbacks in other businesses, so I know what it's like and what you were saying. But this has just been encouragement all the way through, hasn't it, really? Which touch wood, you know, is... I'm
going to get one video, because there's just a little bit to do with what we did to try and encourage people to come to our website. And this was another big diversion in our thought process, because this video was constructed. The reason we were in the green room was because this was our Indiegogo campaign video, and that's what we thought, this is going to be it. But as we started to learn, you know, people needed a more personal approach. People wanted to see who was selling it, why they were selling it, what does it do. You know, we had this little advert, so we used it to try and gauge interest and get people onto our site. So this will work, it's through a pen. hindsight, I think that should have been on video. Yeah.
We loved it. I mean, you know, that was going to be first part of excuse me, our video. There's going to be that. There's going to be an animation. Then there's going to be one of you and me talking about it and doing all this. And you think, hell, it's going to take 10 minutes. That nobody stays on an Indiegogo site for 10 minutes looking at the video. 3 minutes max. So even with
Yeah,
well,
we do
it's
use it.
on our website.
Yeah,
it's oh yeah, well, not use
it's on
Love
YouTube
it.
channel and things.
Yeah.
I know. I wish we
had
had
a swing like that.
more of it. I think we will try to utilise that a bit more.
But there's our day in the green room, wasn't it? That was
yeah.
fabulous.
So even that was, you know, a day in a green room, and then we went to the motion graphics guys up in Newcastle, and they did a fantastic job with it. And it was just, like I say, everything's alien, but everything's exciting, and everything's a learning curve. And I can't reiterate just how you've got to follow your gut, because it's your baby at the end of the day. And if you take bad advice, then you can only blame yourself. You know, you've got to make your own judgment, and if it's wrong, then at least you can do something with that. And like you said earlier, you know, get over that and use it as a positive.
I think we're lucky that there's two of us, so at least we can bounce off each other in terms of do we think it's right, do we think it's wrong. Yeah,
very much so. Yeah. And I mean, I had planned on going into the analytics and whatnot, but with the connection being a bit fruity and time dragging on, I don't know whether to just bring that to a close.